Hello and welcome to the Trinity Fit Over 40 podcast with me, Rob Burkhead. Today's podcast is with Trinity member Sally, who's lost over 4 stone and dropped over 3 dress sizes in her 60s. She's now 65, she's full of beans and able to keep up with her 2 young grandchildren, but it wasn't always like that. Before starting Trinity, she'd had a long career living in London and the weight had slowly piled on over the years, and at her highest she was over 16 stone and a size 20. Her energy and confidence were at rock bottom, and she was suffering from high blood sugar and pre-diabetes. A move from London to France was part of a new beginning for Sally and her husband, who were looking for a new, healthier life, and that's when she joined Trinity for the first time back in 2017. And she had some great results. She lost well over a stone, but then her husband fell seriously ill, and she took a step back whilst helping him through his recovery. She then rejoined Trinity in December 2021, is now at her lowest weight for decades, and she's enjoying being back in all her favourite clothes. And she was recently at her daughter's wedding and she was showered with compliments about her weight loss. What's more, she's no longer pre-diabetic and her blood sugar is perfect and her doctor can't find anything wrong with her. So in today's podcast, Sally reveals exactly how she did it even in her 60s and how she overcame many of the speed bumps along the way. So let's get right into it, sit back and relax, and welcome to today's episode. I'm here today with Trinity member Sally, who's lost over 27 kilos, so well over 4 stone on her fitness journey. But first, Sally, I want to rewind a little bit to give a bit more context to those people who are listening who don't know so much about you. So I always like to start with a blind date question. So I'll channel my inner Cilla Black. So if someone said, "Who are you? Where do you come from?" What would you say to that?
I'm 65 years old. I've spent most of my life in the UK, but I've been living in southern France for the last 7 years. And I work as a freelance copy editor. So I work for...
I'm very jealous of living in southern France as well. I think it sounds so exciting. So you've kind of started with Trinity back in 2017. So this is a really interesting interview because you had kind of 2 spells. One when we were still kind of figuring out exactly what we're doing as a company, but you still saw some pretty good results. And then more recently, starting again in the end of 2021.
Yeah.
So let's rewind to the very start then. So where were you at? I think you just moved to France. Is that right?
Yeah, we'd moved to France about 3 months before. I'd lost some weight quite quickly. Mainly doing things like I started on Weight Watchers but didn't like that. I did low carb. Low carb worked for me, but it wasn't sustainable. You can't live like that, especially in France, bread. And so I was looking around for something that would give me a bit more of an overall lifestyle approach, because moving to France was a big part of changing our lives. We came from London, we had busy lives, we were both self-employed, so there's all the financial stresses that come with that, and living in London is very busy and stressful. So we sold everything, moved to France in the country, and thought, okay, well, how can we reinvent ourselves? And losing weight was a big part of that. I'd got to the point where I just bought a pair of size 20 trousers, and I've still got a photograph of myself in those trousers, which is one of the few photographs of myself from that time because I didn't take photographs. I've still got the trousers. I put them on now, and it's like, those pictures where you can fit 2 people in them. Yeah. It's like that. But that frightened me, and also getting a bit older. I was in my late 50s then, and I didn't want to be old. You see people kind of shuffling around and not able to move, not able to enjoy themselves. And part of moving to a more relaxed lifestyle was that theoretically we didn't have to work so hard because we didn't have all the mortgages and everything that you have to pay for. And so that we could enjoy life. And I wanted to be able to enjoy life. And for me, losing weight was a big part of that. So I was trying to remember how I came across Trinity. I actually can't remember, but I did find you guys. And even in the early days, there was a tremendous sense of community of, I think we were Trinity Tribe then, weren't we?
Yeah, that was it.
And it was, we were all in it together. And it was very much a group of like-minded women, and you guys who are honorary women
Yeah.
will allow you. And I had some pretty good results, actually. So I lost the second third of the weight. Then my husband got very ill. And I had to step back for a while. He was in hospital for 3 months, and had to learn how to walk again and all sorts of things. And I stopped focusing on me for a while. And it actually took me it took me a couple of years to get back to a position where I wanted to do this again, during which time I'd put on a bit more weight. So that's when I came back to Trinity in 2020, whenever it was.
2021, December the 1st. I've got it.
2021. Oh yeah, we had COVID. Everything gets mixed up.
Oh, yeah, it's a blur, isn't
Yeah,
it?
don't know where I was. By which time I'd also been diagnosed with osteoarthritis of the spine, which was another reason for wanting to be more mobile, lose more weight, get fitter, because a lot of it comes from being sedentary. I have a sedentary job. I can't help it. So I really have to make an effort to move, because otherwise, you count your steps at the end of the day and you're lucky if you make 1,500. So Trinity was and still is the only thing I've found and I've tried that actually works for me. And that's a lot to do with the knowledge that you guys have, and also the coaching and the continual support. I tried doing it alone and I can't. I don't have the discipline in that area of my life. I'm finding meeting deadlines for everything else, but looking after myself, I'm not that good at. So that's where you come in.
Yeah, and I think you have that external accountability with those deadlines. You're a copy editor, right? You're given deadlines. There's someone else who's expecting the work at a certain time.
Yeah.
It's a really good point you make. Whereas when you're trying to get fit on your own, there's no one else involved, and I find people are more likely to do something for someone else than they are for themselves. Weirdly, even though we know we need to do it, it's healthy. Without that accountability, it is really hard.
Yeah, it's easy to find excuses not to do it.
There's always a reason, right? Work's busy, it's too hot, whatever it may be. So you've seen some pretty incredible results then. So you said the biggest, you had those size 20 trousers.
Yeah.
What are you wearing now?
14.
Amazing. So significant.
And I can pretty much go into a shop and buy a size 14 and know it will fit. There are some shops where I would still need to breathe in a lot, but most of the time size 14 fits, which is great, because I've got a whole wardrobe I can go back to of stuff that I used to have.
And you were saying it's not, just before we started recording as well, were you at a party, you said recently, and people were noticing as well? It's not.
Yeah, I mean, my daughter got married this year at our house. So we had a house full of people I haven't seen for ages. And everyone said to me, my God, you've lost weight. I mean, really incredible. And how did you do it? And all the rest of it. And people are not terribly willing to say that these days. They don't like to comment on your weight because they think you might see it as rude. But I liked that. It felt good, because you can see it in yourself when you look at comparison pictures. But when you're losing it, especially if it comes off gradually, you don't notice. All of a sudden, you might wake up and think, you know, gosh, that pair of trousers or something is really, really loose. Or I need to go and buy some more underwear because I've got nothing that fits. But yeah, you don't do much for my clothes budget, you guys. But for other people to notice is a real motivator and makes you realise quite how far you've come, actually.
Yeah, and it's a lot. You've put in a lot of hard work over those years we talked about, and there was obviously that bit in the middle where your husband was ill. But I think it's nice to get recognised. As much as you said, it's a bit taboo now almost to mention if someone's lost weight or not. But it's not really just about the weight, is it? I think it's about more than that. I don't know if you agree.
Muscle really, really quickly. And it's been quite interesting to talk to people, and they say, how do you do it? So you say part of it was resistance training. And they say, oh, can't do that, can't lift weights. And then you explain it. I love it. I enjoy lifting weights. And, I mean, I only deadlift 14 kilos, but I started off at 4 kilos, and I'm only little. So that, to me, that's an achievement. And they understand these days, I think. They don't do anything about it, but they understand that that's what you need to do. And I've got both my daughters they're in their 30s, they're doing resistance training now, because they don't want to lose what they've got at the moment. So I am, before I joined Trinity, I was pre-diabetic. I'm not anymore. My blood pressure was high. It's not anymore. I used to get breathless walking upstairs. Fine with stairs now. I used to hardly walk at all. Now I'm doing 10,000 steps a day. I'm doing 4 workouts a week. I am putting the effort into myself, because I want to be fitter rather than because I want to lose weight. And I think that's an important way for me to think about it, because there's I've got little grandchildren. I want to be able to enjoy getting down on the floor with them and running around with them. And I look at my granddaughter, who is 18 months old, and she will squat naturally. She does a perfect little squat. And I think, God, I can't do that. I wish I could. I used to be able
Yeah,
to,
we all
but
could at some point.
yeah, I'm a bit too stiff these days. But I'm a lot less stiff than I was, and a lot less stiff than I would be if I didn't do anything.
And
Yeah.
I love that focus on. We try and have everyone have this realization at some point. People tend to sign up because they want to lose weight, and it's totally understandable. And losing weight will make you feel better and more toned and have more energy because you're not carrying around so much weight, and improve those markers like blood pressure or blood sugar levels. But then that shift for the reason why you're doing it now, to be fit, to be healthy, I think is so important to keep it going longer term, because you've done this this time round for 20 months and then all the rest before as well. You've done this for a long time. And I don't think anyone can keep going just focusing on I've got to get to that weight for that event or anything like that. That always has an end date. Whereas having energy for your grandchildren, that's going to be necessary for a long time.
It is, hopefully.
Yes.
But actually, it's interesting how Trinity has had an impact on other areas of my life, particularly on focusing on the stress side. I am much more organized in the way I sort out my work. So I can get big projects, like sort of that's going to take me 4 months. And that can seem quite overwhelming at the beginning. But I've learned to break it down into sections and then break everything down into what I can do each day. I know how many words I can edit each day. And I will write that into my calendar. And I don't always hit that, but that's my target for the day. And that helps me feel like it's a manageable project. So it's day by day rather than thinking you've got 4 months to do this. And that was something I learned from you guys. And the whole stress management stuff I've been doing with Laura, that has helped me realize areas where the stress is affecting everything else, like my sleep, and the the possible ways to get around that. Because if you don't sleep, you don't do anything else well. So it's not just weight, it's not just fitness. It's the whole way you approach life, and also it's made me more adaptable. We have a big house bought deliberately. We have 5 kids between us, and we wanted to have somewhere where they could all come at the same time. And sometimes they do. And in the summer, the house turns into party central. So you've got friends, you've got family, you've got all sorts of people coming in and staying, and they're on holiday. So, we have good food, we go out for meals, they want to do what they want to do. And it's taken me a long time. I cracked it this summer, I've maintained this summer. But other times I have put on weight over the summer because of that. And I had to work out that in the same way that I accommodate other people. So somebody will say, I don't eat mushrooms or I don't eat nuts or whatever. I'll accommodate that. I'll do what they want. I don't do it for myself. I don't say to them, oh, well, okay, well, I don't want to drink because I don't want to drink too much. I do that now. I'll have maybe 1 or 2 drinks if we're out. I don't drink otherwise. But it's a whole shift of mindset to get around to doing that for you, to looking after you in the same way that you look after other people. And I think that's something a load of people struggle with. They're always, women are always looking after our families. We're not looking after ourselves.
Definitely. And what do you think helped make that shift then? Because it's kind of like a sort of people pleasing mentality, which I think, again, like you said, is kind of rife in female population, especially. Where kind of programmed you should be trying to please and help everyone else. And what do you think? Was it stuff that you did with Laura? Was it realizations you had on your own? Like, what made that shift this year possible for you?
It was definitely talking it through with Laura, but also realizing that if I wanted to get to my goals, then I had to put the effort in for myself in every area. So there was no point working hard for 6 months of the year and then for the other 6 months of the year slacking off with a good excuse. There were people here and you wanted them to enjoy themselves. You did. It's partly not wanting to make them conscious of what you're doing, not wanting to stand out, so you want to fit in with everyone else. And I don't need to do that anymore. And that's taken me a while to get to. But that's part of prioritizing myself and learning to prioritize myself in getting the workouts done, getting the food I need, helps me to prioritize myself in every other area. So it is a mindset shift. And thought transformers have something to do with that. The coaching has a lot to do with it. It's I probably should have got to that realization before now, but I got there in the end, and it's part of the overall shift in making me a not a better person, but a better person for me, somebody who looks after me better in the same way that I would look after everybody else. And a lot of that's come from confidence. I mean, I can stand up in front of people and give talks, and I'm a historian. I give lectures occasionally. I can do that, but I don't. In a social situation, I'm not as confident, and I don't want to be different. So it's easier just to fit in with what everyone else is doing. But I think the older you get, the more you realise that that's not actually important.
And I think it's also years of habit, isn't it? Like 30, 40 years of trying to fit in and
Yeah,
please people. It takes a bit of time. Like you said, maybe you should have this realization sooner. But again, it's years and years of habit. You're actually kind of unwinding and rewriting the rules for yourself, using all these different tools and building your confidence. Like it's never really one thing. And did you have some perception of, because there's probably some fear as well in, like, I don't want to say no to that thing because I don't want to make people feel bad, or I don't, or they might, like, it might be an awkward situation. Did you have some preconceptions about how that would go, and did it go as expected and you powered through, or did people react differently?
I expected people to um, to be difficult about it, to sort of, why are you doing that? Actually, they don't care, you know. They're perfectly happy to say what they want to say. Oh, I don't want to go out this afternoon, or I want to spend time doing this. They don't care. They're there to enjoy themselves. So they don't care about what I do either.
And I usually say, like, if the
I mean,
person does care, that's quite strange. Like, it usually says something about them, right, as well. Because sometimes you'll have a friend or someone,
mm,
friend, I'll do air quotes, like, who does get really offended, going like, oh, well, why? Because I was speaking to someone who's much earlier in the process. They were in their fourth week of the program this week, and they said one of their friends was getting quite annoyed because they weren't having a dessert anymore when they go out for dinner, and they always had done that together, and that friend couldn't kind of deal with that disconnect. But I think it does just take, I said to them, it takes a bit of time for people to also get on board with, like, the new you, because they know Sally was this and they expect this from you. But now they're starting to see it.
yeah,
It can take 6 months, 12 months for people to kind of accept, okay, this is how you are now. People generally don't like change, in my experience, and it takes them a while. So sometimes you just have to push through. So I'm sure
yeah,
there's a bit of time in there as well.
probably. I mean, it's sometimes difficult with the drinking being in France. I mean, wine everywhere. Yeah, I mean, everyone drinks. No, these days, not everyone drinks, but the perception is that everyone drinks all the time. And we have friends who literally do drink all the time. That they're never without a drink in their hand when you see them. So moving to a situation where you are maybe having a glass of wine, glass of water, glass of wine, glass of water, or not drinking at all, I thought was going to be quite difficult. But actually, people accommodate it. They understand. And I think partly having lost the weight, they then understand because they can see that that might be a contributor
Mm.
to it. So having something sort of visible in front of
So
them that,
yeah,
that is what you're doing. Um, but it's funny. I was saying to my husband the other day that I don't just feel lighter because I've lost the weight. I feel lighter in spirit, if that makes sense. So, things have sort of lifted in my mind. And I think that the weight of other people's expectations has probably gone, which is quite a nice place to be. And I think that's part of confidence.
that's really. That wasn't actually what I was expecting you to say. So I get it totally, but I think, yeah, it's a really interesting point, because I speak to a lot of people early in their journey to check it's all going okay, and a lot of people say before they started they were obsessed. All they were thinking about was food, and that's also really not a fun way to live, all their weight. So they were just years of worrying about what they're eating and their weight and the pressure of that. But also, like you said, I hadn't even thought of the other one, of people's expectations and trying to meet them and worrying about what they think. Years of that really grind you down, I think.
And also worrying what you look like. It's why I never used to have photographs taken. And actually, the wedding this summer, there are loads of photographs of me, and I like them. It's the first time in a long time I've been able to look at a photograph and think, yeah, all right, that's all right. And that there's a perception in your head that other people look at you and think, no, she's fat and ugly, you know, because that's the way you look at yourself, and you don't like yourself. And you have to get round to a point where you like yourself for other people to like you. And I think I'm getting there. I can look at myself in the mirror with not very much on and not go, oh my God, you know. Still, there is lots of things I'd improve, but I can actually look. I can take the photographs that we take every so often, and I can see a visible improvement. And that makes me feel good, you know, and that makes me want to carry on because it's not easy.
And I think it's also important to have all those other wins as well to stack up. So it's not just the visual, like all the weight. Because I know for me on my own journey, initially it was like visual. I was a very weedy teenager, and it was all about how I looked in the mirror. And you get to a point where actually it's not very. You know, you've made all this progress, but you're still judging. Like you said, there's bits I want to improve. I don't like my calves or my ankles, or for me, or my arms still don't look the way I want to, and that's a pretty miserable way to live. But I think
Yeah.
when you then start focusing on other things, so like you said, you've increased 3.5 times in the strength you're deadlifting in terms of the weight you're lifting, all the steps you're doing. You know, you've been also stacking up all these other wins, so that you can go, my body's capable of all of this. It's not just a number on the scales.
Mm.
I'm also running around with grandkids. I'm also able to do all of this. So why don't you share because I think we talked about before we were starting recording. What are the other kind of wins you've had recently?
I'm on my 37th day of a 10,000 step streak, which, considering I was doing an average of 5,000 before, I'm quite pleased about. I've lost a total of 3 dress sizes, so I've gone from a size 20 in some things to a size 14.
Yeah.
I've trying to think what else. Health wise, my doctor can't find anything wrong with me. I think he tries. I
Yeah.
think he can't. The osteoarthritis I've always got, but it doesn't bother me anymore.
Wow.
I can do whatever I want to do. I can go out for a walk. I can climb a hill. I can keep going with other people, and I don't feel my age. I don't want to feel my age, but I really don't. And hopefully, you know, keeping fitter like this will help me carry on, not, you know, sort of declining into decrepitude like you can. And you know, it's been a difficult year. Well, I've had a difficult few years, but my mum died this year, and that sort of brings you up short a bit, you know, because it is a intimation of mortality. I was able to see her before she died, and that happened just before my daughter got married, sort of months before. So we had kind of, you know, really sad, really happy,
Yeah. Right next to each other.
and making me cry.
Oh.
But I've managed to keep going through it and not sort of use that as an excuse to get depressed and dissolve into you know, feeling sorry for myself. And I've, you know, we've got a lot to look forward to. We've almost finished doing the house, which has taken a long time, and we can actually enjoy living in it now. Yeah. I've got a bit more weight to lose. I'll still be around for a while, yeah. But I really couldn't have got to this point without you guys and Laura.
I have to apologise for the timing of the doorbell going off. This is working from home. Like, hopefully Lucy will answer it. Yeah, there we go. But yeah, I want to talk about Laura. So obviously you've had a tough year with lots of hires as well. But you've had that coach working with you for the past 18, 20 months or so. How has that helped? Like, what's been the significance of having that coach, do you think, through the journey?
Just having somebody, A, to report to, but B, to talk to. Those 15 minutes once a week, I really look forward to them because I know that she'll be supportive, whatever the result is, whatever I've done. But also, she always comes up with suggestions. She always comes up with another way of thinking about it that I hadn't thought of, and it it keeps me on track in a way that just having email support wouldn't, because there's a big difference between actually having to talk to somebody than having to email. You can hide in an email.
Yeah.
You can't hide in a 15-minute conversation because they'll know. And she has such great ideas, and she always comes up with, we were having friends over for dinner and with a particular set of requirements, and she came up with the most brilliant ideas for what to give them that would suit what they wanted but also not be too damaging for me.
Yeah.
And with the stress consultation, she really knows her stuff, so she's been able to pinpoint quite possibly where my stress is coming from, in terms of being able to sort it out, so that I get IBS, but my IBS is not diet related. I've done loads and loads of trials of different foods, and it's not diet related. It comes from stress, and so we've managed to pinpoint together the times when it happens and the times when it doesn't, so that I can see what's triggering it. And I couldn't see that by myself, but talking it through with her has helped me to see it, and then we can work out what to do about it. So she's been brilliant.
It's so common that IBS, is stress induced. I did it. My dad also has it, and stress as well. But it's very easy to have these blind spots, I think, isn't it, on your own when you're busy, you've got your work deadlines, you've got family asking for things, you've got people staying all summer. Like, most people don't have time. When you're 20, maybe, and your life's quite simple, I think you can have the time to figure this stuff out. But as you get older and life gets busier,
Yeah.
even though you've moved to France to try and have a more chill life, I'm sure there's still plenty of things going on.
Oh yeah, and I work for myself.
Yeah.
And I have a busy job. I have a successful career, but that comes with being busy, and it's also unpredictable. So that sometimes you get 3 people ringing up at once and saying, "Can you do this?" And I have a rule that I don't turn somebody down twice in a row. So if I'm busy, I will turn a job down. But if I turned you down last time, I won't turn you down this time. And that can get me in some awful situations of having, too much to do at the same time. So it's kind of seeing a way through that and managing that and having light at the end of the tunnel. And not having to think so much about me and how awful I feel about myself actually helps with that, because it allows me to focus on other things, to have the headspace, which is not feeling sorry for myself, which then allows me to get other things done more effectively. I've only just thought of that, actually. So but that's a definite switch, because how you ruminate on if you've got a problem with yourself. you know, and things are not going so well, and you feel like you're not getting anywhere with it. That takes up all your headspace. You can't think about anything else. So knowing that there are things I have to do, there are strategies I've got to get them done, that sort of frees me to get on with everything else. It's like getting the steps done. If I don't try, I do maybe 1,500, 2,000 steps. I've done 10,000 steps for the last over a month. And I had to figure out ways of doing that, ways of getting that into my day. So even though I work at home, I walk to work. So I'll go out 15 minutes one way and come back. And that's 2,000 steps. I do that in the morning and I do that in the evening. So that's the equivalent to walking to work, and it gets me 8,000 steps in. I don't have a glass of water on my desk. Every hour when my watch tells me to stand up, I'll go to the kitchen, which is the other end of the house, get myself a glass of water, walk back. So I'm moving. So I know I'm going to get my steps in. So I don't have to think about it. I plan my food at the beginning of the week. Every Sunday, I plan. And I can do it in 3/4 of an hour now because I do it so often. And I don't have to think about what I'm eating. So I've got time for other things. I get up in the morning at 7 o'clock, go and do a workout. By the time I come back from my workout, there's a cup of herb tea sitting on the bedside table. I can look at my emails. I can then go and have a shower. I can then get back into waking up slowly. But the workout's done. Don't have to worry about it. But those are all strategies that it's taken me a heck of a lot of time to come up with. But they make my life easier, and so there's less stress, and so the whole thing is much easier to manage, much simpler to manage.
And how do you feel? So you've got that sort of almost morning routine now, which sounds really healthy, like getting outside, moving, doing a workout. How do you feel when you come to then starting your work day?
It gives me more energy than just going from breakfast straight to my desk. I did worry that I wouldn't have enough time, that if I took those blocks of time out of my working day, that I wouldn't have enough time to get everything else done. But actually, because I then go straight into working rather than faffing around after breakfast, because I've been able to think on my walk, I've been able to think about what I'm going to do. That's my thinking time. And then I go straight into working. So actually, I'm just as productive, if not more productive, as I was, but I've got everything else done as well. Doesn't always work. Sometimes it's raining and that throws everything out, or we've got an appointment first thing in the morning or whatever. But most of the time it helps to have the habits and to just follow them. I know you always say it's like brushing your teeth. You just get up, and that's one of the things you do. You brush your teeth.
You don't think about it.
No.
Now, but I remember my dad making me brush my teeth and me not wanting to, and for years that was a thing. So it's the same with these habits. Once you've established them and done them for long enough, which can take quite a while with fitness habits, can really, going by the research, 3/4 of a year sometimes. Simple ones like brushing your teeth might take a lot less time. Then you now have that default habit to fall back onto. You might have a day, as you said, where you've got a doctor's appointment or it's torrentially raining and you just don't feel like it. But the next time it's not raining, you're going to go out and do it again and you're going to feel good. So you've got kind of a system now that's working for you, that's your system. And I think this is something we always try and come up with everyone, is we have a basic structure that people follow, as you know, inside the program, but then it's about figuring out what's going to work in your life and your system that's going to work for you, and everyone's is going to be a bit different. So people don't need to necessarily copy it, but they can take inspiration from the fact there is some sort of routine. Someone might have to get up at 5 to get their thing in, or do the work at the end of the day, or do it at lunch. Everyone's got a different system, but it's what makes you feel good.
Yeah. And I'll admit, I don't have the pressures on me that some people do. You know, I don't have young kids. I don't have elderly parents who I have to look after. My sister does that, fortunately for my dad. Um, but um, you know, everyone has their own pressures and their own stresses that they need to find some way of dealing with, and that's how I deal with mine. You know?
Yeah, definitely don't play it down. Your results have been amazing.
Yeah.
It's been you've worked hard, and it's been a long journey. And where are you looking? You said you've not quite achieved all the things you want to achieve yet. What are your goals now?
I've got another 12 kilos I want to lose to get down. I'm now down to just being overweight rather than being obese. And that was actually a big milestone. Um, but I'd like to get down to normal BMI. So that would be another 12 kilos. Um, but I I want to carry on getting fitter. Um, other than the weight loss goal, I actually don't have a goal at the moment, which is probably something we need to talk about. Um, but I don't want to stop. I keep being told, you're right, I kept being told before I had visible evidence to shove in people's faces that, oh, you're old, you can't, you know, you're older, you can't, you're not going to lose the weight. You know, people post-menopause, you don't lose the weight, it just stays. But you can. And I want to, you know, and I know that I'm older than most of the people you've got on the program. Um, but I don't I don't feel that that should stop me or hold me back, or you know, I'd like to still be lifting weights in my 80s.
Me
You know,
too.
yeah. I remember having a conversation with you a little while back about why both my parents were stooped,
Mm,
you know, sort of like this,
yeah.
and because of the osteoarthritis, which is in my spine. I was worried about getting like that. And you said to me, I'll guarantee your parents have never lifted weights. And that's true. They wouldn't even have thought about it. But um, I think people are much more aware of the need to do it now, and to just carry on, you know, living in a healthy way and eating well. And we don't have much of a problem with eating well in France. We grow a lot of our own food. The food is fresh here. The meat is good. We buy it from the farm. Um, you don't get a lot of ultra processed food here. It just doesn't exist.
No, Europe. Certain areas in Europe are so much better than the UK.
It's coming here. You can go into some of the supermarkets in the bigger towns and you'll see a lot more processed food, but it looks horrible because they don't. In the UK they dress it up to look nice. Here they're a bit more prosaic about it, and you know it's just there because you need something to eat at the end of the day, so it's less attractive. Um, but um, I think that the overall Trinity approach of eating healthily as well as eating to lose weight is much more um, is much healthier for people than, you know, you sort of if it fits my macros I can eat it, and it's the way we eat now, and we'll carry on being like that.
And last question, then. You've got a lot of experience with Trinity. Um, you're coming on a retreat next week. You've been on the first ever retreat as well. But for someone who doesn't know anything about us, or is like, just listening to some podcasts and things and thinks that they're thinking, is this for me? What would you say to someone who's kind of on the fence?
I would say give it a try. And I would say that it's very difficult to tell from the outside what you're going to get out of it. But the community is incredible, and that's a lot about what makes it successful. But also that you guys really do know your stuff. The knowledge you have, you and Ben, is quite phenomenal. And it's grown over the years as you've specialized in the areas you want to specialize. You will go away and you will find out stuff, and you'll also bring in experts that also know what they're doing. And the amount of wisdom available to us, even in the coaching calls every week, is very, very valuable. And you put so much effort in. You put far more effort in than some other sort of similar programs in terms of putting effort in personally and making yourself available to us. So even though it's expensive, and it is expensive, and I think that's certainly one of the things that initially put me off, the investment is worthwhile 10 times over, because you will get so much out of it, but you have to put so much into it to get stuff out of it. And it's not an easy program, but then it shouldn't be. So that I think that when I say give it a try, you have to give it a while. You have to do kind of at least the first 3 months, probably more. And you have to be prepared to do that, because if you're not, then it's not the program for you. Sorry, that's not exactly selling it, is it? But
I think it's important for people to hear this, though.
yeah,
Like, I speak to people after 4 weeks, right, and they often are very pleased, but not by the things they would expect. So some people have lost, I think the record's like 1 stone 8 pounds, which is insane. But most people have not lost masses of weight because they've built muscle, they've changed their body composition. But it's the other things you said, I think, that are the quicker results of finally feeling like something's going to work, and they're not going to have to worry about this for the rest of their life.
yeah.
And we tend to have people.
It's not a quick fix.
No.
And people want quick fixes, but this isn't a quick fix. This is, and it also, it's not just a diet, or it's not just fitness. It really is a lifestyle. And so it's something that will pay back what you put into it.
And that's why we're called Trinity Transformation. We want to transform every area of someone's life. It's not Trinity weight loss.
Yeah.
But it takes a little bit of, you've got to get the initial fitness results to then be empowered to do all the other things, the amazing things like you're doing now.
And I also would say, as somebody who is way over 40, that the fit over 40 thing is great, because that's the women you're aiming at, but it doesn't stop at 40, 50, 60. And it is still something that people would get something out of, even if they are, past 60.
Yeah, it's really important. And I think it's one of the reasons I wanted to have this conversation. It's because you're 65 and you're doing amazingly, and people start to lose muscle and fitness from 30 naturally. So if you didn't do anything, you can be 65 and people can feel 80. You can be 65 and feel great. Yeah. And sharing your story has been really amazing today, because people can hear there is hope. I don't have to have pre-diabetes and high blood pressure and all of this stuff. And like you said, just the rhetoric around menopause or around age is often not very helpful, saying, oh, you can't do it anymore. You're postmenopausal, there's no hope.
Yeah.
And you've just proved that's actually nonsense. But if you hear that all the time, people believe it, and it's kind of really frustrating.
Yeah.
But as I said, you've shown today, obviously, and with your amazing results, that's not the case. And you can keep going for, fit over 40 was never meant to be fit over 40 just in your 40s. But I think sometimes it does get misinterpreted as that. So we simply have to tell some people sometimes, no, you can be 50, you can be 60, you can be 65. It doesn't end like the approach we use will work. Maybe if you're 75, 80, you might need to do a slightly more gentle training program, but the rest of it will still work forever.
Yeah.
So Sally, I know you're super busy, so I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to join me today. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
And I'm sure everyone will be really inspired to hear it and follow in your footsteps. So thank you again. And obviously see you next week for the retreat in Crete.
Look forward.